Smoke covered the sky. The planet Thorn Delta was burning. Buildings fell into the ground like paper. Fire lit up the air. Giant warships floated above, trading heavy gunfire. From one of those ships, a drop pod launched. Inside was a tall warrior, a soldier from a different world. He had fought many wars. He had won many battles. He thought he knew everything about fear and pain. He was wrong. The warrior had been sent to observe humans. He had been told they were strong but wild, brave but reckless. He was to learn their ways during one mission and report back. He thought it would be simple. But the moment he landed, he felt something strange in the air. Not fear, not excitement, something deeper. The pod crashed into the ground. The door burst open. He stepped out into fire, broken steel and gunfire. All around him, human soldiers were fighting. Some were shouting orders, some were bleeding, and all of them were still moving forward. Not one was turning back. A man ran up to him, his face dark with dirt and sweat. His name was Eric Blake. His armor was scratched, and blood stained his arm. But his voice was calm. "Glad you made it," Eric said. "We're heading north. Stay close." The warrior followed. Explosions shook the ground. A building nearby collapsed. A woman stood at the corner holding a large weapon. She was yelling to her team. Her name was Laura McKnight. She looked like a ghost with fire behind her. Her one good eye focused on the enemy line. Her team was pinned down. Eric called to her. "We're going through the alley." Laura didn't answer. She just pointed and fired. Her bullets cut through the smoke. The warrior followed her lead and aimed his weapon. He moved with the group. Bullets flew past. Rockets hit nearby walls. A man behind him screamed and fell. "Keep moving," Laura shouted. "Don't stop." "We hold the line." The warrior had seen battles, but this was different. The humans were not fighting like trained machines. They were fighting with something else. Grit, rage, hope. The warrior shot at targets, but he was also watching the humans. Even when a man lost his leg, he used his last breath to throw a grenade. Another man carried his wounded friend through fire. He reached an old building. Inside were scattered chairs, old machines, and blood. Laura pointed at the map. "We take this spot. It's the only high ground left." Eric nodded. "Rebels are pushing from the south. We hold here or we die here." The warrior stood near the window, watching enemy soldiers move in the distance. They were fast. Ruthless? He turned to Eric and asked, "Why stay and not fall back?" Eric cleaned his rifle. "Because they won't stop. If we run, they take the city. If they take the city, they kill everyone left." The warrior didn't answer. For the first time, he didn't know what to say. Outside, the rebels came closer. The sound of guns filled the air again. Rockets exploded on the roof. The wall cracked. Dust covered their faces. Laura was laughing, her hair on fire. "This is what we do," she said. "We fight. We don't stop." The warrior fired again. His heart beat faster. Not from battle, but from something new. He looked at the humans beside him. Eric, Laura, the others. They were covered in wounds, outnumbered, outgunned, but not broken. He thought he had seen courage before. But now, he was starting to feel something strange in his chest. He was starting to feel fear. The night was dark, but the sky was full of fire. The city was burning. Smoke covered the stars. Loud gunfire echoed through the broken streets. The warrior moved with the human soldiers. His armor was scratched, and his weapon was hot from shooting. His heart was still beating fast. The humans were tired, but they kept moving. They had a new mission now. A rebel group was hiding deep in the city. The humans needed to find them and stop them. If the rebels took control, they would destroy everything. There were no safe places left. Laura McKnight led the group through the ruins. Her right arm was bleeding, but she didn't slow down. Her eyes were sharp. Every step she took was strong. Eric Blake walked beside her. His face was quiet, but his eyes were watching everything. The warrior followed them, stepping over broken glass and stone. He had seen many battles, but nothing like this. The enemy did not stop. They attacked from the shadows, from the rooftops, from behind walls. It was like fighting ghosts with guns. A young man named Sam Carter walked near the front. He was the youngest soldier in the group. His hands were shaking, but he kept his finger on the trigger. He looked back at the warrior and smiled for a second. "First real fight," he said. "Hope it's not the last." They reached an old school building. The doors were broken. Inside was quiet, too quiet. Laura held up her hand. The group stopped. She moved forward slowly. Her steps made no sound. Then came a click, a trap. The explosion hit them hard. The floor shook. Dust filled the air. The warrior was thrown against a wall. His ears rang. When he stood up, he saw 3 soldiers were down. One of them was Sam. He was on his back, bleeding. Laura ran to him. "Hold on," she said. Sam looked up at her and smiled. "Looks like this is my last class." Then he laughed, coughed, and closed his eyes. Eric looked away. The others lowered their heads for a moment. Then Laura stood up. Her face was cold. "We keep going," she said. "We finished this." The warrior was shocked. Sam was just a boy. They had lost more men. Yet these humans didn't stop. They didn't cry. They didn't wait. They just kept fighting. They moved deeper into the school. The hallways were dark and full of broken desks and chairs. Suddenly, bullets flew from behind a wall. The rebels were waiting. The warrior ducked and returned fire. Laura charged forward with no fear. She fired from the hip and shouted orders. One soldier was hit in the leg. Eric pulled him to safety without saying a word. The warrior watched as the humans moved like water. They fought together. They covered each other. They fought with everything they had. The warrior fired again. He was starting to fight like them. Not like a machine, but like a man who had something to protect. After a long fight, they cleared the building. The bodies of the rebels were left behind. Smoke filled the rooms. The floor was red. The warrior stood beside Laura. Her face was hard. She wiped blood from her mouth. "They're getting smarter," she said. "They're setting traps. This isn't just war. This is survival." The warrior nodded. He was starting to understand. This was not about orders. It's not about medals. It was about the people next to you. Fighting for them. Dying for them. He looked at Sam's body one last time. Then he picked up his weapon and followed the humans into the fire again. The sun never rose on Thorn Delta. Smoke and ash covered the sky. Fires burned in every direction. The city was falling apart, but the humans were still fighting. The warriors stood with the last group of soldiers. There were less than 20 now. When they started, there were more than 70. Most were gone, killed in the streets, blown apart by traps, lost under broken buildings. Laura McKnight was still standing. Her face was pale and her left arm hung useless, but she didn't stop moving. Eric Blake looked worse. Blood ran down his leg and his helmet was cracked. Still, he walked without help, carried a small map in his hand. It shook a little from the cold. They had found something. A hidden tunnel under the palace ruins. Inside was a bomb. A big one. The rebels had built it from stolen tech. If it went off, it would burn half the continent. Nothing would survive. They had no choice. They had to stop it. The tunnel was long and deep. The walls were made of metal and stone. The lights were broken. They walked in silence. Every footstep echoed. The air smelled like oil and fire. At the end of the tunnel was a large door. Behind it was the weapon. And more rebels. Laura checked her gun. She looked at the others. "This is it," she said. "We stop them here, or we die here." The warrior looked at her. She had lost her team, lost her arm, lost everything, but her eyes still burned. She didn't ask for help. She didn't ask for mercy. She just kept fighting. Eric stepped forward. He placed a small charge on the door. Then he looked at the warrior. "You're not one of us," he said. "But today, you fight like one." The door blew open. Bullets filled the air. Smoke and fire followed. The rebels were waiting. They fired from behind metal walls. Some had heavy armor. Some had flamethrowers. The room was full of heat and noise. The warrior ran into the fire. He moved fast. He didn't think. He just fought. His weapon roared. A rebel fell, then another. Behind him, Laura shouted orders. Eric was on the ground, pulling a wounded soldier to safety. A man named Lewis took a hit to the chest. He dropped. Another man named Kyle charged forward and tackled a rebel with a knife. They fought hand to hand until one stopped moving. The bomb was in the center of the room. It was huge. Red lights flashed on its side. A countdown had started. They had 5 minutes. Laura limped to the bomb. She opened a panel and started cutting wires. Her hand shook from pain. Blood dripped on the controls. "I need time," she said. Eric covered her. He fired at the rebels trying to get close. He was hit in the shoulder, but didn't stop shooting. The warrior stood over Laura. He blocked shots with his body. A rebel came at him with a blade. The warrior grabbed the man and slammed him into the wall. 1 minute left. More rebels rushed in. The warrior was bleeding now. His chest burned. His vision was blurred, but he stayed in place. He was not fighting for orders. He was fighting for the humans beside him. Laura gave one last pull on the wires. The countdown stopped. The bomb went quiet. The room fell silent. The last rebels ran. Humans didn't chase them. They fell to the ground, breathing hard. Laura dropped her weapon. Eric sat against the wall, smiling through the pain. The warrior looked around. Smoke filled the room. Bodies were everywhere. But they were alive. For the first time in his life, the warrior felt proud to stand among them. The bomb was stopped, but the war was not over. The palace ruins stood tall over the burning city. Black smoke rose from every street. Fire lit up the sky. The rebel army had lost their weapon, but they were not gone. They had pulled back to the center of the palace. There, behind thick walls and steel doors, the human queen waited. Her name was Queen Helena. She was not like other leaders. She did not hide behind others. She fought with her own hands. She had once been a general. She knew how to kill. Her rebels followed her without question.
Oh, yeah.
They would fight to the last breath. Laura McKnight leaned against a broken pillar. Her face was white, her arm gone, her side torn. But she stood up straight. She looked at the others. There were only 5 humans left now. Eric Blake, silent and calm. 2 young soldiers named Roy and Daniel. 1 older man named Grant, and the warrior. Laura spoke with a low voice. "The queen is inside. This is our last fight. We go in, and we don't come back out unless she's down." Eric nodded. He loaded his rifle. "We end this. Now." They moved through the wreckage of the palace. Each step was slow. The air was hot. The ground shook with distant fire. At the great hall, they saw the final line of rebel guards. There were more than 20, waiting, ready. Laura looked at the warrior. "You'd take point?" The warrior didn't answer. He just moved. Gunfire broke out. The hallway exploded with sound. Roy went down first, a shot to the neck. Daniel ran forward, screaming. He fired his weapon until it clicked empty. A rebel hit him in the chest. He fell next to Roy. Grant threw a grenade. It took out 3 rebels. Then he was hit in the leg. He kept shooting from the ground. The warrior moved fast. He dodged bullets, slammed rebels into the walls, and broke their lines. His weapon was red hot. His hands were cut and burned, but he didn't stop. Eric fought beside him. He didn't speak. He didn't blink. He was hit twice, but kept firing. Laura used her one good arm to throw a knife into a rebel's neck. Blood sprayed the wall. At last, the hallway was quiet. Bodies covered the floor. Smoke hung in the air like a fog. The final door stood ahead. Behind it was Queen Helena. Eric pushed it open. The queen stood in the center of the throne room. She wore black armor. Her face was calm, cold. She held a blade in her hand. It dripped red. "I gave them a future," she said. "You brought them back to chains." "No," Laura said. "You gave them death," the queen charged. The fight was brutal. The queen moved like lightning. She knocked Eric to the ground with one blow. She kicked Laura across the room. The warrior stepped forward. He raised his weapon. The queen knocked it away. They fought hand to hand. Every strike shook the ground. Every hit left blood. The queen was fast, but the warrior was stronger. He slammed her into a wall. She broke free and stabbed his side. Pain hit him hard. He dropped to one knee. Laura crawled across the floor. She picked up a broken piece of steel. With her last strength, she drove it into the queen's back. The queen gasped. She turned and looked at Laura. Humans never die easy. Then she fell. Silence filled the room. Laura dropped the steel and collapsed. Eric crawled over to her. He held her hand. The warrior stood slowly. Blood dripped from his wounds. He looked down at the dead queen, then at the broken humans beside him. They had won. But it had cost them everything. The fight was over. The rebels were gone. The city was quiet, except for the crackling of small fires. The warrior stood among the few survivors. Only 5 humans remained from the original 70. Their bodies were tired and broken, but their eyes still held fire. Laura McKnight sat against a wall. She was breathing hard. Her one arm was gone, and blood stained her clothes. Eric Blake cleaned his rifle slowly. The others, Grant, Roy, and Daniel, were resting, but pain was clear in their faces. The warrior looked at them all. He felt a strange weight inside his chest. He had seen war and death many times, but this was different. These humans were not just soldiers. They were fighters who did not stop, even when everything was lost. They fought not for glory or honor, but for each other. Eric stood and walked over to Laura. He pinned a small medal on her uniform. Laura smiled weakly. "That's the 4th time I've died," she said quietly. Eric nodded. "And the 4th time you've come back." The warrior stepped forward. "I am to report back to my command," he said. "Ask." "They ask what I learned here." Laura looked at him, her eyes sharp despite her pain. "Tell them this," she said. "Tell them we fight like hell. We fight because we must. We fight because we refuse to lose." The warrior thought for a moment, then he spoke. "I have known war for centuries. I have faced enemies who've destroyed worlds. But I never knew what fear was until I fought beside humans." The others listened as he continued. "Not fear of death. No. I feared losing them. I feared their courage. I feared their refusal to give up, even when all hope was gone." He looked around the ruined city. Buildings burned. The sky was dark with smoke. But below, humans were already moving. They carried the wounded, lifted the dead, and cleared the rubble. The warrior's voice was steady. "I came here to watch, to learn. But I am changed. I do not stand apart anymore. Stand with them." Laura smiled faintly. "Welcome to the fight." Eric looked at the warrior and nodded. "You're one of us now." The warrior felt something new. It was not pride. It was not pain. It was respect. For the humans who fought beside him, for the ones who gave everything and never quit. As the fires burned low, the warrior stayed with the humans. He watched them rebuild, saw their hands scarred, tired, but always working. He heard their voices, sometimes soft, sometimes loud, always strong. He knew this was only the beginning. The warrior no longer feared war. He feared losing the humans beside him. That fear made him fight harder than ever before.